Thank you guys for having me. I love how practical we're getting around AI because I think we all sometimes feel it can get a little bit fluffy. So what I'm here to talk to you guys about is how, and I would talk about different examples of how leveraging AI, but how you can actually do that at scale. Because I think for us and for me, that's probably the biggest challenge that we're facing is how we can actually implement this in a scalable way within our existing processes. And to do that, you are going to need a hybrid workflow where you're leveraging different types of technology, different types of AI with humans in this beautiful collaboration where you're taking the best from both worlds, because that is how you're going to be succeeding. All right. First, I'm going to do, following Bimi's lead, going to do a show of hands. How many of you guys have at some point in time used any type of Gen AI tool? I don't know, pretty much all of you. Okay, then how many of you guys have some point in time been tasked to produce more content on the same budget? Few laughs, few giggles around, that's actually at least half the room. And then finally, how many of you guys have tried to combine the two? So leveraging some type of Gen AI tool to produce more content on the same budget? Okay. Pamela, did you? Okay, there's actually quite a few hands there. Great. I think there's no doubt, and we saw the show of hands before, that creating more content with the same budget or even less budget has been a studio challenge for a while. And the good thing is that AI is now in a place where it can actually help you do just that. However, implementing new tech, and especially some of the new stuff that hasn't been validated and we don't have a whole lot of use cases, can seem quite daunting, and it can feel like a little bit of a chicken or the egg situation. There's so much going on in the studio, there's a lot of pressure, there's tons of deadlines, and implementing new stuff without dropping the ball can be really challenging. But let's face it, it's also critical for the future success of your teams, of your brand. And with all these new tools, I also understand it can be a bit of a jungle. Bimi showed a slide before with like 15 different tools, and we could probably expand that to, I don't know, 1,500 different tools. And it can really feel like a jungle out there. But it doesn't have to. And I think this is where you guys really need to be leveraging great partners that are doing the vetting for you, that is continuously vetting the different technologies that's out there and figuring out what is the best solutions for you. Because if you're asking your team to do that, you can be sure you're going to be a step behind. Okay, so let's get very practical here now. I'm sorry for the colors a little bit off here, but bear with me. What if I tell you guys that with these two ghost mannequin shots, typical shot in studio, we're going to be able to create this for you within the same day and within one tool, leveraging a ton of different processes of different AI technologies. Sound too good to be real? It is not. It is actually happening as we speak. It's something that is in production, and we have clients using it. And for the next part, I'm going to be showing you guys a little bit behind the scenes on how this is actually happening at Pixelz. So, in this use case, we are leveraging a bunch of different technologies. And I think we can all, we saw it before as well, acknowledge that there's a lot of standalone tools that are out there. They've been out there for a while, and they're getting better and better pretty much on a daily basis. But to get the quality that you need and to get at scale, you need to combine them in a hybrid workflow. And that fits with the endpoint that you want to get to, because that's super, super important. You need to understand what tools, what processes you need to get to where. So identifying the endpoint first. And that is exactly what we've been working on at Pixelz for quite a long time. We spent the last 10 years or so perfecting, at least from our perspective, high volume e-com post-production, where we're leveraging all kinds of different technologies to solve different problems. And I think at this point in time, we have around 100 different automated steps within our production. Then the last couple of years, we've really been switching our focus, or but adding to our focus, Gen AI tools as a layer on top of all the capabilities that are already available, because it's really going to be a combination of them that is going to give you the results you need. All right, so in this case, we have two input images from a client uploaded into the platform. This is a very simplified version, bear with me. But again, these images are going into different processes behind the scenes. So you'll do your standard retouch to these ghost images. You'll do your virtual models, virtual backgrounds, creating your 3D model. There's actually also video in here and some copy and tagging. And that's all happening within one place. Good. So how do we get there? Let's try to break it down into a linear process that can be a little bit easier to understand. So in this case, we have a raw ghost image, and now we want to take that to a final AI model image that is ready to go online. First step we want to do here is to do what we always do with a ghost image. We do the retouching that's required from the specific client based on their style guides. So in this case, within our system, like I said before, we address post-production a little bit differently. So this image goes through somewhere around 15 different steps. So anything from file prep, props detection, symmetrize, shaping, there's different QA steps involved. You got your garment retouch, some mask and background removal, color matching, and a crop at the end. And then you have a final ghost image. And in the past, this would be the endpoint. Now you're ready with your ghost image, but the beautiful thing is you can actually use this to create additional outputs. So in this case, we're using the final ghost image to create a raw AI model. At this point, we need to make some decisions to make sure that we end up where we want to end. So we need to choose what model we're using, what is the pose the model is going to be having, what's the environment, and what styling do we want, including the outfit. And of course, for a client like this that is producing hundreds of images a day, they're not going to be sitting and doing this ad hoc. This is something that's all going to be templatized based on the brand, the category, the style, so that when the 2 pack shots enters the production, we already know exactly how to treat it. All right? After that, we now have our raw AI model, and this is coming straight out of the actual engine. But we're not done here. We still need to do retouching like we would do with a model that's shot in the studio. So you'll see again the process that I actually went through, and I forgot to say before, the green steps are either fully or partially automated steps in the process that is using some type of automation that solves that problem the best. In this case, you'll see some of the similar steps as before, but you also see the first step being a step that we don't typically have when we're getting images shot in studio. So we have an aesthetic review that goes in. So we actually have a specialist looking at this and saying, what comes out of the AI, is this something that represents where we want to end up? Is this something we can use, or do we actually need to regenerate an image that fits with our expectation? The vast majority of times is absolutely workable. Sometimes there'll be more stuff that needs to be fixed in post, but oftentimes it's going to look something along these lines. Again, run this through the different post-production steps, and then we end up with a final model image. So that was one process in this, and in this case, I think we generated 5 or 6 different on-set model shots, and we're showing 3 of them here. We also had a different process where we're creating the lifestyle shot. Based off of that lifestyle shot, we're creating a video, and then we have a whole different process where we're creating a 3D model. And then I said, like on the right-hand side, you can see there's some copy and tagging as well going on. And of course, within these shots, you can see in the model set, again, there's some colors going on here on the screen, but like if you look at the model sets, there's a high degree of consistency within both the model, the skin, the color of the garment, etc. And of course, we can't compromise on that. That's super important. Good. When we're done with that, we have a final, in this case for this client, and they're not using all of it for the PDP view, but it could be a complete PDP view, could be used for different purposes. And of course, just like we would with any other typical production, it needs to be distributed to wherever the client needs it, whether that's straight to site, whether it's ingested into a workflow tool, PIMDAM, CMS, cloud storage, you name it, there's no different. So we actually have a traditional production where we started with 2 ghost shots, and then we're adding additional assets on top of those. And for this specific case, it was actually all created within 1 day. Good. So now I try to simplify a little bit. Now I'll do the opposite. I'm going to show you guys what it looks like if we're looking at the entire process from having 2 pack shots And we actually had 2 model images from the client as well. In this case, we decided not to use it because it's just a little bit more powerful if you're using only 2 ghost shots to grade to where we are. But as you can see, there's different processes going on to get to the endpoint. And I think what's important is that sometimes you can have parallel processes that can run completely independently, and sometimes the end of one process becomes the starting point of a different process, like we saw with the virtual models before. And I think that's the power of this. When you're using different type of technologies and where it's not one or the other, you can really leverage these assets in multiple ways. And that is something that we are extremely excited about. I think we all have seen that at this point, it's not a question whether AI can create a great image. It absolutely can. We've seen many examples of that, and there's tons of tools that can do that. But to make AI like truly usable and scalable in a live production environment, it's a very different beast. It's so difficult to create both a workflow that can handle this, but also to create consistency across different production types, category types. You need to account for matching angles, lighting, colors. And then again, if you are to do that in several different standalone tools, it becomes very complex, it becomes very time consuming, and it's probably not even worth the while. So that's what we've been on a mission to solve, and what we are on a mission to solve. And we really want to integrate on top of what we already built for the last 10 years, a layer of all these Gen AI tools, the ones that are really going to make a difference to our clients in one single process, so that they don't have to deal with all these different tools, but can rely on a partner that has it integrated in a single solution that makes it very easy. Good. I think if I am to leave you guys with 3 things, I think we've established that the tools are here, they're getting better every day. So it's real. It's not something that we need to talk about, it's something that's coming in the future. So it's very real, and we need to address that. 2, from my perspective, from our perspective, you absolutely need some type of a hybrid model, and I'm saying it has to be Pixelz. It could be somebody else is building that, but a way to leverage different tools and technologies, and leverage some of these standalone tools in a single place, because they're gonna make each other so much better when they play together in a single process. And then adding humans in the loop, because that is still gonna be super important, whether it's an integral part of the production itself, or it is to art direct or control the different AI processes. And then 3, no matter the timeline that you're looking at, no matter the needs of your brand at this point in time, no matter if it's something that AI is going to be complementing your existing production or processes, or whether it's going to be replacing some of it, I just think it's absolutely important that you start testing this out now if you're not already doing it. And even if you don't feel like this is the right thing for your company or for your brand, I think just sticking your toe in the water and start figuring out what is it. I think you'll start seeing that there's a world that's opening there, and understanding how can this potentially add value to myself and my team, whether it's today, tomorrow, or in a couple of years. Because if you don't start getting your hands dirty, it's really hard to grasp what it can do for you. And that's all for me. Thank you, guys.